everybody. It's me, Eric, and my beloved darling Rachel, who's sitting right over there. Just finished watching a video by a fellow named, I believe, another Majestic INFJ. It was interesting. He had nice things to say about me. Thanks, Lou, for giving me a heads up on that. He describes Typology's problem as equivalent to the three-body problem, but perhaps just more simply put that people don't want it to be pinned down, to be operationally defined as anything. So this is the first time in quite a while that I can honestly say I'm on DNT.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got all the little scraping remnant things and hit them all as much as I could.
Oh, wow. I thought I smelled it.
Yeah, it does have a distinctive odor. And that just made me want a live stream. I don't know. Maybe also what Majestic guy in the J was talking about. Maybe also what Majestic guy. Emailed Anthrax. Actually, I was talking about another Majestic INFJ. That's how you know that they're an INFJ when their name works like that. Trickily. I have my very own Majestic INFJ right here,
yeah. Yeah, thanks.
Ensuing Myahs. Well, the Myahs and Ensuing are from things he was saying, you know. He raised the question of how do you know things, and he attempted to answer it with basically scientific method stuff, you know, establish falsification criteria, blah, blah, blah. But my point about how do you know things, the correct answer is you know them either by using one of two knowledge functions. You're either intuiting what you know, or you are remembering what you know. If in fact you're determining that something's valid, that's not knowing it. That's validating it. So, you know. Oh, you're rare. Don't get me wrong, email Ransax. You are rare and majestic beyond all compare. You want to talk about what the meaning of majesty is? Majesty is spelled INFJ. Which is only 4 letters for 3 syllables. That's pretty good. Most 4-letter words are just 1 syllable. Like boat, for example. Or hats. Or, I don't know, Ruth. I'm going into the garage now. Just like a cigarette. Yeah, I'm not very much on DMT, and it doesn't last very long, but it's kind of nice there for a second. I got all cold. You know how that goes. You get all cold, and you're like, oh, it's so cold. Oh my God! Look at my beautiful little car. It's so clean. It's winning a cleanliness award. Look at that. I washed it today. Just look how clean it is. It looks like it's brand new. Oh, I forgot to get the steering wheel. I missed a spot or two there. I could get it with this wet rag right now. There. That's better. Now look. Stop falling over. Now it looks super nice. After I got that one spot that we were talking about. It's causing us problems. So we got all these spots where dust hides, you know. There are a few little spots here and there. They're called spots where dust hides. You gotta get those with the wetness of your orange rag. You're not even looking. Look over here, you guys. What are you doing? You're not paying any attention. I'm trying to tell you something. Anyway, I know that we'll continue to find little hidden spots of dust. I'll get them with my wet rag until there's none left. And the car looks like it could be right on the lot, being sold as a brand new little car. That's how I know it's really clean. As you can see, it cleans up very nicely. It's looking fresh as Will Smith back when he was living in Bel Air. And you will see what I'm talking about right now. Makes me want to not drive my little wilderness car now. It's clean. Oh my God, Eric, how did you get it so clean? Are you crazy? No, I used a pressure washer. That's how you got it so clean. And just look at it shine. Look at it shine in the moonlight. I'm hopeful that you're finally understanding what I'm talking about for the first time but forever without stopping. It's like normally get this little spot over here. Okay, there. That's better. Normally, maybe something, I don't know. Or do I look like a memory expert? Well, if I do look like that, looks can be deceiving. And they are in this instance. You have been deceived by my good looks, like a lot of people. I am so impressed by how much this cleaned up. It just cleaned up like a little champ. Like everything this wilderness car does. It does it like a little champ. That's why I call him Daddy's little champ. sometimes. But Rachel pointed out what I've been trying to ignore for a while now. Daddy's little champ has a flat tire. So Daddy ordered an air pump today. Seems like trouble. Don't jump on my newly cleaned little car. Of course you do. Sure, your paws are filthy. Like your mind, Sophia. You're not even facing the right direction. You're never going to be able to drive it like that. You got to put your paws up on the steering wheel. That's how these things work, Sophia. I have no idea how you're going to be able to push the pedals. Or you're hiding from trouble, huh? Well, hi, Mr. Bubbles. And you are here because you want to go to the restroom? No, you want to bother Kapia, but Kapia's got you faked out. She's up here. You don't even see her. You don't know where she is. So good luck with that, Mr. Kitty. I think she's picked up on your bad habit of not looking upwards. A lot of times, the most important things are above you, in the sky. Things like trees and clouds, the moon, the sky, airplanes, hot air balloons. Those are all things in the sky. And they're very, very important. I hope people all learned an important lesson today about sky things and about importance. It's a good opportunity for us to learn about two things at one time. Let's see what we see in the night sky tonight. What sort of strangeness will confront our eyes this evening? I don't really see anything. So there's the moon. You can see the moon, you know. It's like, kind of like poking through the trees. All right. Let's go around front. We'll look at the sky and we'll see how many aliens we can see. Like, what's that thing up there? It's kind of going behind clouds, I guess. But let's look at it more closely. Because it seems like it's kind of bright and it's kind of behind clouds, maybe. But then sometimes it doesn't. There it is. See that? There it is. Let's look at it. What is it? Where did it go? Anyway, it's like this bright thing is like in the sky. But I'm confused about what it is. Maybe Rachel should point her phone at it and tell her what it is. The first question is, does it move in? It doesn't really seem to be. So that means it's like a planet or something. Let's get Rachel's phone and see what it is. Where is it? I don't know. Well, I don't know where Rachel went. Is the problem I'm having. So I tried to go in the front door, which is of course locked. Yes, Rachel, darling.
Oh, did you knock on the door?
Yes, I did. Can you point your phone at that and tell me what it is?
Excuse me?
Can you point your phone at that and tell me what it is?
Sure. That?
That bright one up
The
there.
bright one? Sure.
Oh. Based on its brightness, it should be Jupiter.
It's Jupiter.
Okay. But it's in a very different place than it was.
It
before.
is.
So anyway, that's Jupiter, everybody. Say hi to Jupiter.
Hey, Jupiter.
Now we can go back inside. Burr, it's cold outside. You know the old saying, girls are some genius because they are from Venus, but boys are so stupider because they are from Jupiter. Have you ever heard that? What sort of business does nobody get down to? Free jazz? Nobody gets down to that. A Baroque mass. Nobody really gets down to that. Is something bad happening with you, Lou? I'm sorry to hear that, whatever it is. Is it, did you try to bake a, what is that called? That French thing that falls down if you don't quite make it right. What is that thing called? Winston's mom, you can tell me what food that is, I'm sure. You know what I'm talking about. There's a food that's famous for falling if you don't do it right. Not London's Bridge. Pimp, did you stick around for Taylor's stream? It was too chaotic for me. Too much golden shower contest. Souffle. Thank you. Yes. So, Lou, let me start again. Did your souffle fall? No, it's not pronounced souffle. Okay? It's not. I know. I took French class. Calorie to you. Do I look like a male model for LL Bean? Yes, you should be the Majestic ESFP, money. But it wasn't a souffle. That's why I'm not that impressed, Lou. At least make a Yorkshire pudding. Is that what it's called? No. Beef Wellington? Is that the really difficult one where you cook some bread around some beef as you're cooking the beef? Well, Taylor said the other day, yesterday, I actually tuned into the beginning of his live stream before he had other people there. It was pleasant listening to him talk. But he said he's going to try to limit the size of the panels because it gets too chaotic. Obviously, so far, mission unsuccessful. Apparently, from what you guys are saying. Yeah. Well, he's out there supporting people's ability to have some platform to express themselves. And that may or may not be a good thing inherently. Probably it is, but um, the fact is, most people who want to express themselves aren't qualified to say anything. Did you just make that noise, Capio? There's a strange noise come from you. Felt like that little bit of Dimitri was good for me, actually. I feel like it reset some serotonin thing or something. I don't know. Like it feels nice and homey to just be hanging out with y'all live streaming. I don't feel any kind of restlessness about it or anything. Poor guy thinks the earth is flat and nukes don't exist. I think it's better to say that the person states that the earth is flat or, maintains a position that to think that the earth is flat and nukes don't exist. I mean, well, for what purpose does he think these things? It's like, what's he trying to do with this information? Is he trying to go somewhere across the earth? Is he trying to find the edge? Does he have a position on how thick it is? Is it 100 miles thick? 1,000 miles thick? 10,000 miles thick? How flat is flat? Is it just 1 millimeter thick? We're all just walking on this very flimsy piece of like rice paper. If it's that flat, how does it hold up all the ocean water? I guess he must not think it's that flat. He probably thinks it's an intermediate amount of flatness. What would be the intermediate amount of flatness for a planet if planets were flat? Well, Okay, so look, it's 25,000 miles around the equator, right? So let's call the planet 12,500 miles thick, and when it's flat, okay? The main reason they call it flat is because it's the same thickness all the way across. That's what makes it flat. Not it's that so flat, you know. It's important to remember the difference between flat and flat. It may be a bit of an ESP thing. And they're known to keep questionable company. I wonder if he is just scamming these crazy people or if he has become crazy himself. Neither. Taylor's not crazy himself. He's not scamming them. He's just giving them a platform to speak. And he's relying on the fact that it's working well on YouTube to guide him. It's obviously working well on YouTube because what are we all here at my stream talking about? His stream. He gets way more people in his streams than I do at mine. He's not crazy at all. He tries to keep them in check, you know. To some extent, he goes like, "No, you're wrong. Shut up. You're being dumb." If you think about it, the salience of a thought is kind of like the buoyancy of uh, an object in the ocean. Otherwise, it's not like it. It's just kind of poetic. Yeah, I don't think Flow State believes in any of that flat Earth nonsense. Yeah, you're saying if a thought were an object in the ocean, its salience would be expressed as buoyancy. Now, its salinity would be determined by its porousness. The more porous the object was, the more salt water it would absorb, and therefore increase its salinity. I thought so. Salience is a kind of a weaselly word. I might use it myself sometimes, but it doesn't mean relevance. It means importance, prominence. You know, it doesn't mean cogence. It seems like a weaselly ENFP word. He says he believes in flat Earth. You mean salience as an aberrant salience? Or what would make it aberrant? I don't think that. I'm not sure how salience is modified by aberrance. You know, looking up words today. Departing from the normal, usual, or right course. Yeah, it's got multiple definitions. This is why I wanted to look it up. Aberrant salience, the incorrect assignment of salient significance or value to different innocuous stimuli that might precede the onset of psychotic symptoms. Huh. Okay, well, I guess that makes sense. In other words, assigning significance to things that don't have significance. I see. I see now why they're using salience like that. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Your salience can be aberrant and be fine. I take back all my critiques of aberrant salience. Now I understand. And I am ashamed by my previous ignorance. Well, I've seen Rachel give significance to things that didn't have significance when I got to witness her having a psychotic break. When I had my own little psychotic break, I ate way too many mushrooms. I would not say aberrant salience was a problem there. It was circular, running around in circles. Salience is in the context of aberrant salience, it's sort of like a force dragging thoughts to our attention and giving a sense of significance to them. It is a force, like mental illness. Whatever biochemical, bioelectrical malfunctions going on, is that the force? I guess that would have to be the force, right? I proved finding my model is merely that innate sense that makes a thought stick out, seem important, and be dragged to our attention, the signal telling you. Pay attention to that. Okay, I see. You're not actually talking about aberrant salience. You just wanted me to understand salience. You did a good job of getting me to understand salience as you mean it, by way of aberrant salience. That was very smart of you, Don, kind of. I now understand. Once again, I'm bathing in a bucket of shame regarding my previous ignorance. Consider me hereby schooled. I don't know what Don is. Did I ever speculate about Don's personality type? I don't remember doing so. Well, I've got regular salience, I think. Sometimes, in some ways, about some things, my salience is either better or worse than Rachel's, depending on how you look at it. Like, I'm much more likely to notice deers by the side of the road than Rachel is. Maybe she's looking at her phone. I'm not sure. Does that mean that I have better salience because I notice deers and say, hey, look, there's deers? Or does it mean I have worse salience because deers are not really worth noticing? Good question. Good question. No, I mean when we're driving, we can both see the same things just as well as each other. Seems like most of the time, if one of us sees an animal, it's me. Rachel may or may not turn in time to see it. Why do they call them salients when they're all telepathic? My guy, you've gotten yourself a wonder point for that incredibly dumb joke. It's dumb but endearingly so, so I'm giving you a wonder point for it. An aberrant, the threshold of what becomes salient is reduced to such a degree that thoughts or sensations require much less actual relevance to one's train of thought, resulting in finding random significance. Right, like a relative of mine by marriage who has schizophrenia, I guess, and she believed that there was a pattern in people's footsteps in the hospital that was sending her. She could read the messages from the pattern of the footsteps that the people walking by were secretly communicating to her these messages by the pattern of their foot walking. That's pretty crazy. Are there any animals where you have second thoughts about slowing down for when you encounter them on the road? Uh, I mean, if they're in the way, I'm always gonna try not to hit them. Slow down if they say if they don't like come right around the corner and they're right there, um, or try to work to get around it if I can't stop or slow down in time. If you mean to look at, I don't slow down to look at deer, but we slow down to look at a bear when we see a bear, which is not very often. I don't slow down to look at turkeys anymore, but sometimes they are in the road and I have to slow down for them. They don't really do a good job of getting out of the road. The things that get run over the most by far are squirrels. Obviously, if I saw a Sasquatch, I'd stop and try to get a picture of it. Um, haven't seen any signs of any Sasquatches yet. In the almost a year that I've well, to me, despite somebody saying that sounds like TINE, what you are describing is an understanding of cognition predicated on an NI knowledge function. NE doesn't work like that at all. Okay. And soon we'll be having a couple join our Squatch hunt. Yes, in fact, that's why we're repairing the flat tire on the little wilderness car. I suppose it's why Rachel felt the need to bring it to my attention. It's because we're having guests. I'm very much a receiver's perspective, Don Kindness. Like I'm not conscious of that process of salience at all. It's completely unconscious for me. No, that won't cause an issue, Jeremiah Johnson. It's totally fine. In fact, knowing that you watched a lot of sessions and then that actually allows me to ask some questions about how you would interpret something I'm doing. It's what you think I'm doing with it, and how you answer is quite informative about your type. Does the world annihilate and then reassemble when you blink? Well, no, because You have multiple means of observation besides sight. And additionally, there is an incredible amount of observational redundancy in the world because there are all these different people and other living creatures and things. Plus, don't forget, money, God observes everything all the time. So that's why, thanks to God, even if you were to shut down all of your senses, the world would still exist. It would not have to annihilate and reassemble. But it's all thanks to God. So, you know, remember to thank Him for that in your prayers tonight, money. Basically, I've switched from a mode of cognition which various new thoughts are pulled from some half-conscious pool that borders between the conscious and unconscious, slowly starting as separate and snowballing into larger and larger concepts, into this weird metacognitive state. Well, I mean, one becomes more metacognitive when one pays more attention to one's cognition, obviously. Definitionally. You know what's even crazier than that, though, Carmen? I don't annihilate, but I still reassemble. I'm not sure how it gets broken every time. Your brain's a lot less excited, huh? Well, maybe you need to plan some sort of an outing for it. You can't expect it to get excited if you just want to make it sit there and do homework all day long. Nothing very exciting about that. So every day when I wake up, obviously I reassemble reality. Everybody's waiting for me. Like, Eric, can you get on it, please? Overstimulated me? I'm not overstimulated. I'm not. If anything, I'm stimulated exactly the right amount. Oh, if you can't get excited. Well, it's not Don Kynos that can't get excited. It's Don Kynos's brain that can't get excited. That's why I recommended planning some sort of an outing to, say, an amusement park. You know, the kind of thing a brain gets excited about. I tell you what I'm excited about. Rock and roll music. It's the hot new craze that's hitting the airwaves as we speak. It's called rock and roll music, and it's got a backbeat. You can't lose it. Something like that. You know, it's got the pow, 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 and the pew. Got all that stuff. It's crazy. You wouldn't even believe it if I told you. And I am telling you. So what do you think about that? I'm telling you and you don't even believe it. Mm-hmm. That's right. It's called a cake drum. It's for people who are awesome. Okay, so get away from it. Mm-hmm. That's right. Mm-hmm. That's pretty exciting. Oh yeah, it's exciting. Just wait. You think, but Eric, that beat doesn't really sound very good. But just wait. It's because you haven't heard the conga part yet. See how much better that is now? So much better. An old Indian song of mine. I used to sing when I was with the tribe. I think Don kind of doesn't pass the Turing test. Well, have you maybe tried giving him a urine test? I watched your video, another Majestic guy in the chat. I liked it. It's good. It's interesting. I appreciate your kind regard, but I think the issue is much simpler than a three body problem. Is that people actively don't want to pin down anything. When the problem isn't implicit to the thing itself, it's implicit to the way people want to use the thing. They don't want to define anything in a way that limits them. They just want to use their intuition to intuit that Myahs meow person, or do the stupid thing you were articulating, which is like, well, here's a bunch of specific reasons or like instances of behavior that's consistent with this type, therefore he's this type. That's just silly nonsense. I agree with you completely. My point is, I don't know what fucking George Washington was. I never typed the guy. Anyway, Lou's the one who sent me a link to your video. I appreciated her doing that. I guess I enjoyed watching it. It's like, yeah, obviously we need something to stay put, right? So let's say you were to do brain scans that actually showed, but in a way that was meaningful. In other words, you had somebody like wear a helmet for a couple of weeks, and you showed that there were in fact 16 distinct sets of brainwave patterns. You still need to have you still need to have the typing on the other end be correct, or else, well, I guess, if you had enough pieces of data and you showed enough instances of people's brainwaves falling into clearly 16 distinct patterns, it's a lot of ifs, Whereas you make spontaneous quips near constantly based off of possible interpretations or evolutions of situation. I do like to quip. You got me, Don Kynos. I'm a quipper. Well, they say quippers never prosper. It's true. But the point is, in typology, it is true that we don't have enough that stays put like we need it to, right? But one thing that does stay put are test results on skills tests that link strongly to specific attentional matters. And I agree with you that polar is the most important distinction to be made, but it's also the case that you can generally make a strong case for things that have a clear polar test that works well. You can usually say one or two, polar, or something else. So that's a little bit more information you can glean than just polar. How definitive that is depends on how definitive. Well, it depends on somewhat on how much you test the thing. The biggest challenge I have is that people don't tend to like to have their deficit areas exposed. So they're trying to cover for them in some ways. If it's a deficit like TI, for sure, they're trying to cover for it. Just TE, they're trying to do the best they can with it, and they don't want me to do the extensive testing that treats them like a lab rat that would allow me to be more definitive about it. Other polars, it's a little easier. They're a little less sensitive about it. But for everybody, I'm sensitive about the fact that if I keep pushing on this area, they're going to be like, what the hell, you know? So how badly do I want to make sure I've confirmed what I've checked a couple of times? Obviously, with more instances of equivalent questions and more data to work with, I could be more certain about things. But I don't want to push on people's sore spots, you know. That would make me, it's not a way to make happy clients. And not that I'm ever willing to tell them the type they want to be to make them happy, but I do try to respect their boundaries. I found a lot of my actions prior to being hit by a car and letting go of everything were strongly based off a romanticized third-person view of myself based on certain fixations and incorrect assessments about others' view of romanticized life. Well, I don't know exactly what that means, but the only thing possibly relevant I could share in response to it would be, I think my own path of actualization has been one of increasingly recognizing how little everyone else knows. And I feel like I started off life assuming that somewhere, someone, some people really knew what was going on and were making wise decisions about things. Or at least had the answers to my questions. You know, somebody somewhere knew the answers to my questions and was an expert I could rely upon. Just like in the science fiction books where the aliens land, but they're fortunate enough to land not among the unwashed masses, but near a scientist's house who works at the observatory. He hustles the alien in, and first contact is with, you know, a sensible scientist person. Now I understand I'm pretty much as good as it gets. Depressing though that might be. Is this how much humanity has devolved over the generations? So, you know, is that personal growth? Recognizing that other people aren't very impressive? Money, I must say. I will. I was talking to Rachel today in the car, in fact, about how impressed I am with all the very interesting and smart things you say. And Majestic INFJ, I'm impressed at your willingness to attempt to tackle the subject of why it's hard to get a handle on typology, while concurrently pretending it's not because idiots don't want it to be useful. Those people are people I call scoundrels. Typological scoundrels. They want to turn typology into just mushy vagueness. They resist operationalizing definitions at every turn, curse them, in their wicked ways. And then, when they disagree with me, what do they disagree with? They don't disagree with anything except me saying I'm right. They disagree that no, Eric, you can't possibly be the only one who's right about this. That's ridiculous. Okay, but you're not even arguing against anything I'm saying. You just accept that I say I'm right. Well, but you're not, obviously. Well, why not, you fucking tards? Well, they never have any good answers for me. But I tell you what, I have. I mean, I don't have any good answers for them either, but I definitely have a very clean little wilderness car. Because I cleaned it today with the pressure washer. Doesn't it look nice? It was so dusty before. Every time I come in the garage, I look at it and I say, ah, what a clean little wilderness car. We need an induction proof initializing definitions for the mind, reality, and sustaining a long chain toward essential self. Every model is seen from other typologies dance around the box. Well, we have that, in some sense. We don't start with the mind, reality, etc. We do make some statements regarding reality that it supervenes, all reality supervenes upon observation. It's in the however many pillars it was of defensible typology. There's such important pillars, I don't even remember how many there are. But according to a guy whose opinion I trust a lot, namely, what's his name? You know, that super smart guy that I like a lot, Shuffler. It was one of my best videos ever. So if you want to see the pillars video, one of the pillars is there is no reality, but that it supervenes upon observation. It's the favorite connovation in the world. Don't go on vacation, do some observation. Anyway, well, I don't have a definition of mind. I do have a definition of personality, and freaking, in some sense, simply define personality as the compilation of all of an individual's manners, all of an individual's instances of attention, or more correctly, you would define it as those elements of the self that remain the same throughout their life, and point out that only attentional manner configuration does remain the same, or could remain the same even. Obviously, it has to be something configural like that. It can't be, your height or your weight or something that changes all the time. It can't be your mood. It can't be your affect. It's got to be something structural to qualify as personality accordingly. But you know what? I have faith, money, that if you were to do this thing you say needs to be done, utilizing all the various pieces of defensible typology that are currently rendered, I'm sure you do a wonderful, wonderful job. I want to strongly encourage you to do that. Earwax makes me angry. You know what, Fly Guy? I want you to remember something. Rainbows never last very long. Okay? Rainbows never last very long. And rainbows always white, never wrong. How often am I washing my lenses? I don't wash them, I rub them on my shirt periodically. In this particular instance, I was trying to push it back into how it's supposed to be because I guess I sat on it and I got one of the glasses started to pop out a little bit. But I got it popped back into place. It was like basically a dislocated shoulder, but it was an eyeglass lens rather than a shoulder. I have this string in order to keep track of my glasses, but stupidly, of course, I currently have it tied to nothing, so it's just this unnecessary accoutrement. Just style. It's just for show. It's a stage fob. Doesn't serve any actual practical purpose. There, that's better now. Well, the problem with you keep approaching everything down kind of from a receiver's perspective. Not all engagement with information is receiving it. There's getting information and there's putting information as well, not to mention interfacing with other dynamic elements, be they systems or people, you know. You want to frame everything as a form of receiving information, but that's just not right. Sorry, but that's just not right. And the way we know that is because it's wrong. Now here's what I'm going to do for you though, okay? I'm going to do something to make you feel better. I'm going to blow smoke out this tube. I did it, you're welcome. I'm really having a problem with the short lifespan of rainbows right now. So I keep wanting to say to myself, rainbows never last very long. But rainbows always white, never long. Why can't I learn the words of this song? Because rainbows never last very long. I like rainbows. I'm not really that fond of rainbows. They're cool enough, you know. The problem is, there is no pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. It's just a pot of garbage. At the end of every rainbow, there is a pot. It is filled with something. But instead of gold, it's actually just garbage, like kitchen waste. It's horrible. You don't want it. A pot full of used kitty litter. a real joke the leprechauns played on everybody when they said there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Rachel and I went and looked tonight at an interesting plot of land. It's for sale, not far from our house. 7 acres, already zoned for residential. Yiggity yoggity yiggity you know. But our realtor suggested, after we looked at it, some more text from him, we might want to consider buying a fixer-upper rather than building a whole new house. That's a possibility too. Very much a possibility. But this land we looked at tonight, we just saw it at nighttime, but regardless of what time of day, it's got an incredible view. Like looking down into the valley below, like not the valley, but like down from this hillside, you can see like Mariposa's town off in the distance. It's in the area zoned for where you can't have a house, you can't have more than one house per 5 acres. Where each residential lot has to be a minimum of 5 acres. So it's like, you're pretty far from your neighbors and stuff. And it's got septic already in there and a well in there. And the reason it's empty land is because their house burned down in the fires. So, got a lot of thinking to do about what the best course of action is. Dave's probably right. He knows best about these real estate sort of things. Getting a fixer-upper, fixing it up, flipping it, might not be a terrible idea. Well, remember, your model only has validity in its articulation. So, it's a very intuition-focused understanding of things. Introverted intuition-focused understanding of things. Introverted intuition is the cognitive function of relevance. Salience doesn't mean relevance. I looked it up tonight. Sure, I was right about its vagary. But essentially, that's what you're talking about. So the idea that each cognitive function assigns relevance to things is misunderstanding the nature of functions, right? NI is the function that assigns relevance to things. It may be your dominant function or your tool function or whatever, maybe not, I don't know, but it's not everybody's. You can't make all of attention a subset of introverted intuition and be correct. If you're trying to model attentional manners, you're wasting your time. I've already done it to the extent that it can be correctly done so far. It's been done correctly already, or anything that deviates from that is therefore wrong. if it deviates from that and does so in ways that are exclusive of what is already articulated, then, you know, instead of trying to recreate the wheel, you know, rely on the good work done by smart people already. I didn't toss out everything that socionics had to say just because it's a clusterfuck of a disaster intellectually overall. It doesn't mean it didn't have some worthwhile observations to be made. Like, obviously, the fact that MBTI got the J and the P backwards for introverts is pretty important. And socionics noted that. But, you know, it's like there's plenty that I can't establish to really anyone's satisfaction about cognitive functions. And the primary reason is because it's more than a three-body problem. It's a lot of different things fitting together. And everything's weight is supported on everything else's weight, you know? And we're not even in a spot with cognitive functions where we can agree upon basic definitions. It's like we wanted to define cognitive functions meaningfully. We talk about them being whether they're an action function, a deliberation function, a knowledge function, an interface function, but I'm the only talking about that. I'm the only person talking about that. So obviously we've got a big problem because we still have people like Don Carlos trying to figure out attention, cognition, even though he's here and I'm explaining it correctly. People don't want to accept that, oh, Eric's right about things, let's all learn from him. They want to do anything but accept that. They don't want the cognitive function question to be resolved in a sciencey way, because then it ceases to be this fun self-growth astrology thing that people like to make it into, full of archetypes and metaphors signifying nothing. That's a paraphrase of the famous playwright Shakespeare. You may have heard of him in school. He wrote in this funny old Englishy way that doesn't make any sense. Nobody's really sure why he's so famous. I won't blame you for being mad at having to read Shakespeare in school. It's a dumb thing to assign. Methinks thy brownder's spotted sunflower. What the fuck does that mean? Shakespeare, more like Shakespeare. Nah. Shakespeare's alright-ish sometimes, you know. Like, he wrote some good plots, you know. But his metered verse was sloppy as fuck, both in his plays and in his poems. Milton kicked his ass. Milton's poems are so much better than Shakespeare's, it's ridiculous. I think, no offense to the ENFPs out there, I think Shakespeare was an ENFP. In contrast, Milton was clearly either an INTP or an ENTP. And they were a much better poet. So I contradict myself. I'm immense. I contain multitudes. Multitudes of ass-sucking turds. Walt Whitman. Boy, lately I've really been mad at Walt Whitman for sucking so much ass. Like, no, Walt Whitman, no. You never even deserve to even have your stupid little poem published. Let alone you have to read it in college. Ugh. Whose type is INFP? Shakespeare? He wrote too many plays to be INFP. He's an action type. But John Milton, he might be an INTP. Let me just make my point here. I'm going to prove my point right now. I'm going to pick a random John Milton sonnet. This is maybe his most famous one, I guess, sonnet 19. I'll do a Shakespeare one. Sonnet 18, maybe Shakespeare's most famous sonnet, okay? Let's start with Shakespeare's crappy sonnet. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometimes declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Okay. It's like, you're so beautiful that even when you're dead, you're gonna be beautiful. Now, this is John Milton's sonnet. When I consider how my light is spent, ere half my days in this dark world and wide, and that one talent which is death to hide, lodged with me useless, though my soul more bent, to serve therewith my Maker and present my true account, lest he returning chide, doth God exact day labor like denied? I fondly ask, but patience to prevent. That murmur soon replies, God doth not need either man's work or his own gifts, who best bear his mild yoke, they serve him best. His state is kingly. Thousands at his bidding speed, and post or land and ocean without rest. They also serve who only stand and wait. This is a much more sophisticated, much better poem by 1,000 miles than Shakespeare's poem. 1,000 miles better. So, but the most beautiful poem of all is the one I read the other day. Walt Whitman authored Leaves of Grass. The problem is, it sucks my ass. That's one of humanity's greatest poetic achievements, I think. My other poem, Oh Yeah? Nuh-uh. It goes like this. Oh yeah? Nuh-uh. No way. Nuh-uh. You think so, maybe. But nuh-uh. It's a pretty good poem. Dog sleep? I don't know which of my poems is better, but they're both pretty great. Time for a bong rip. Oh, time for a bong rip. Well, that Milton poem is about, it's a poem about how he can continue to fulfill his destiny in life as he's going blind. And being like, what does God need from me? What do I need to do to fulfill God's will for me? And can I do it still now that I'm going blind? And then he basically concludes, God doesn't need anything from us. We also serve who only stand and wait. It's a very sophisticated poem. Very moving when you get into it and understand it in full, but it's not easy. It's not a beginner level poem, you know. Shakespeare's poem you can understand very easily until the very end, and I think that's mostly because Shakespeare didn't really know what he was doing at the end of that poem. But you know, I'm a bit of a poetry snob. I like poetry. I know nobody else seems to like poetry at all. I get that. Um, I have favorite poets, and I'm a big believer in metered verse. If it's not metered verse, it's not poetry, in my opinion. Barely, you know. There are some forms that don't have meter, but those are just gay. Anyway, so when I tell you Shakespeare's not much of a poet, take my word for it. He's not taking seriously his responsibility to be rock solid with the meter. You know, the meter of a poem is like the rhythm section of a band. The guitarist has a little room to fiddle around with the beat. The singer does. The bassist and the drummer do not. They have to be rock solid. So I hope we've all learned an important lesson today about poetry. Namely, that Shakespeare is very much overrated and Milton is underrated. You know, Robert Frost had some good poems. Why were Robert Frost poems so good? Is it because of his imagery or yeah? No, it's not because of any of that stuff. Okay. it's because of the perfect meter that he had in his best poems. Like this one. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep ups crazy when the snow they flake. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. Why is that poem so good? Because the rhythm of it is perfect iambic throughout, right? Whose woods these are, I think I know. It's iambic tetrameter. And it's perfect tetrameter all the way through. Whereas The Road Not Taken is not as good of a poem because it's not as metrically stout. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, extra syllable in there, right? To where it bent in the undergrowth. You got accent problem in that line. It's not nearly as good, right? Because it's not metrically sound. And this is why, friends, neighbors, countrymen, I see I've lost all but four of you in my poetry lecture here. This is why you should only write good, solid, righteous, perfect metered verse. Well, yeah, it's like, why is Dr. Seuss so much better than all of the other children's writers? Because he has perfect meter. He's not fucking around just fiddling with his scrotum and calling it a plum. You know, which is something a lot of poets do. What is this thing I fiddle with? A plum, a plum, a plum I gift? A plum I gift unto myself? This thing I fiddle with a lot? That's a famous poem by somebody who wrote about their scrotum being a plum. Well, listen, Fly Guy, I feel you, but this is my prerogative as a poetry snob, okay? If you're gonna care about something as completely gay as poetry at all, then you might as well be a snob about it. And that's what I am. I'm a poetry snob. I'm snobby about poetry, just like a cigar aficionado is snobby about cigars. They don't want to just have you slap together some dirt and some tobacco leaves and say, go ahead and smoke it. They want it to be a finely cured cigar from Cuba, made out of the finest Cuban tobaccos by real Cubans with their little Cuban fingers. Their adorable little Cuban fingers. I love Cuba. I don't really love Cuba. I don't dislike Cuba either. I feel bad for Cuba. Their stupid embargo. What the fuck? Can we just get over it already? Jesus fucking Christ, you know? Can we just accept that Cuba's not going to obey what we want them to? My lord. Poor little Cuba. Long since has it lost any Cold War significance it might once have had, but it's still treated like it's the Soviet Union. Just deal with it, everybody. Cuba's not a threat. They're about as much threat as, I don't know, Bolivia. Oh no, Bolivia. They might attack us or something. They're not gonna attack us, they're Bolivia. Okay, old timer, fly guy. You sound like the old man telling the kids to get off your yard. The market hasn't become flooded with inferior modern trash cars, trash can cars. Well, fly guy. My Mini Cooper is really performing like a champ. It's at 120 some thousand miles. Still drives fine. Even sends me a Christmas card. Speaking of Christmas cards, we got a Christmas card from Rachel's mom that was addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Eric Strauss, which was about as respectful a gesture as she could possibly have tried to make. I thought it was nice. Because I don't believe Rachel should have any name actually except Mrs. Strauss. Mrs. Eric Strauss. That's nobody should ever call her anything but Mrs. Eric Strauss or hey you or that guy's wife, you know. Hey, that guy's wife. Instead, they call her sweetheart. Hmm. Letters from your wife's parents, a dear son-in-law. Well, I mean, I'm not saying that in normal circumstances that would be worth celebrating the fact that your mother-in-law accepts you. But when you know the story of me and Rachel and where her mother and I began our relationship, how it went down from there, and how Rachel's mom disowned her based on the fact that she left her mom's company and condo timeshare to return home to LA with me. I mean, the fact that it's come this far is amazing. I was definitely on her 100% shit list before. So for her to come around that much is a big deal. If it were a normal thing and we had a happy relationship from the get-go, it wouldn't be any big deal, obviously. But right, I think it's her mom trying to say to Rachel as well. I approve. I mean, more than to me, obviously, but trying to tell Rachel I approve of. I approve of this. I approve of what you've done here. I approve of you marrying this guy. She made it clear at the wedding too. So it makes me kind of emotional to think about, really. because it wasn't ever something that I even really hoped for, felt like I needed or wanted, was her parents' blessing, because, you know, she didn't have a lot of faith in her parents at that point in her life when we first got together, and it was good cause, you know? So I didn't place a lot of weight in their opinion or anything because she didn't seem to place a lot of weight in their opinion. But, you know, it turns out that regardless of all that, that we are accepted by Rachel's family matters a lot. Maybe we'd be fine if we weren't, but it's better that we are. She had a conversation with her dad today. She had a conversation with her mom. I think they both really enjoy chatting with her. Um, I think they're taking real joy in having a positive relationship with their child, you know. As hopefully any parent would, but not necessarily. I mean, the thing is, we kind of totally won the argument on all levels, right? Like they were not treating Rachel properly medically, you know, and also they were not treating her properly as a human being, and they were wrong about their core lever of oppression, which is Rachel smoking weed. Uh, Rachel knocked it out the fucking park, ultimately, with her decision making and successful seduction of yours truly. Although I think we were mutually seducing each other. But, because now she's treated properly medically, she's treated well as a human and as a human being, you know, like she's actually loved in practice, not just in word. And she smokes more weed than ever before. And, you know, she has a pleasant place to live and a man who only beats her like once or twice a week. I don't beat Rachel at all. You know, she seems happy to them, I think. She seems happy to me too. I'm not saying she seems unhappy to me. So, you know, there was really not much they could say anymore after we bought a house and I married her. You know, it's like, all right, you win. No, I don't beat you at all. I've never raised my hand at all to Rachel in any sense of the word. I never dream of doing such a thing. Um, you know, Rachel and I actually love each other, so it's easy for us to treat each other well. Uh, I think in relationships where there's a lot of volatility, it's hard to have volatility and also treat each other well, you know? It means there's some fights. When people fight, usually they aren't that careful with their words. I am, Rachel is, but things get said, you know, people hurt each other. Because Rachel and I are so compatible and have the same attitude towards both ourselves as individuals, like we want to do what we want to do and we don't want to be told what to do, right? And our attitude towards being in a couple, which is you that you don't make trouble where there is no trouble, and um, you don't ever look for opportunities to bust your partner or get mad at them. That's a terrible thing that people do. There may be occasions when something makes you actually mad, if you have authentic upsetness, then you still try to communicate about it as positively as possible. So, the point is because neither Rachel nor I is toxic and we don't have conflicting worldviews, it's only natural for us to treat each other well. It's not difficult. I think it would be difficult for either of us to treat each other poorly, frankly. We're both very sensitive, and I'm very sensitive about the other party's sensitivities. And, you'd be hard pressed to find a relationship between two people in which there were fewer wrong things said to each other. Because if you're like me, probably also to a certain extent like Rachel, you will remember, like, if nothing else, you remember every possibly hurtful thing your partner ever said. Because, you're meaning focused and relationships are scary. If the better it is, the more you have, the more all of your eggs are in that basket. So people are inherently wary, defensive, etc. in relationships. The more they love the other person, the more they want certainty that they're loved as much, the more potential for jealousy, etc. I'm jealous of Rachel's amazing shoes. I'm not really jealous of that. I'm not that into having fresh clothes. I can I can look somewhat less fresh than fresh to death. I'll be okay with that. I could look fresh to coma, that would be fine. I don't mean to get Rachel singing Girlfriend in a Coma again. I know that was stuck in her head the other day. Sorry if I put it stuck in your head again now. This is a different song by the same title. Girlfriend in a Coma. Sorry. I have a girlfriend. She's in a coma. She got that way when she fell out a window. Landed on the sidewalk below. Now my girlfriend is in a coma in the hospital in Roma because she got injured when she was on vacation in Italy. And I wonder, will she ever wake up? I don't know, but I hope that if she does, she knows what's up. She can still recall that I am her boyfriend. 'Cause you never know in situations like this. Amnesia is not uncommon. So that's a different song by the same title, Girlfriend in a Coma. It's by the Beatles. The Beatles wrote that one. It's one of their lesser known tracks. But maybe one of their best. A lot of people say that. Thanks, darling, for thinking I'm fresh. I wouldn't wanna be stale, 'cause then no one would want to eat me. Another wonderful song by Eric. I hope you all enjoyed it. Next, I'll play Gerald Has a Thought. Gerald has a thought. Gerald has a lot. Gerald has a plot to get the margarine's tater tots. He's got a good idea for a name-changing business. Thinking now about what to call Christmas when they hire his firm to change that name. Gerald always thought there'd be chance enough to return to the work left rough. He'd get back to it eventually. But his visions piled up, and his plans would interrupt all the work that started off so hopefully. And now his mind is back on his business, thinking of changing factless to listless. So how all of the people will shout his name. And Gerald knows he understands ever more clearly here now. He won't provide explanation regarding the why or the how. He'll see you and know you from inside your heart. Exciting, delighting, Gerald plays his part. But Gerald still knew there's too much to do, and he had dropped time in the underview. Too much to rebut, so where now and what? Too much time spent nitpicking the skew with you. So Gerald has a thought. Gerald has a lot. Gerald has a plot to get to Marjorie's tasty spots. He's got a good idea for a name-changing business. Thinking now about what to call Christmas when they hire his firm to change that name. Gerald has a thought. What went dark in a hurry? What did? This guy? That's because it's winter, Boba Fett. You'd like to see India one day? Well, good for you. I hope you get to see it one day with your very own eyes. It smells like India and cows, like curry cheese, and the Taj Mahal. It smells like colored dust, elephants and y'all. It smells like bread cooked in tandoori ovens. And it smells like a bunch of people, maybe dozens. But if you go out there and see India and walk around outside, you'll find out how it smells when you walk down the street there. Yeah, how it smells when you walk down the street there. You'll find out then how India smells. Spoiler alert, it smells bad. In other words, different than America. You're gonna get Bobaria. It's a very cloudy day in Los Angeles, and today we run out of time. One of five girls still to come, days will be on. Run by us some more time. Cloudy day in Los Angeles, cloudy day in LA. I'm not sort of and jealous, but I got something to say. Life can stay a bit forgiving to those who stay awake all night. And mostly voices say to give in. They'll try to stop your will to fight. But whether I'm supposed to be here or just be soon forgotten noise is sort of based on what I see here and also on what I avoid. It's a very cloudy Cloudy day in Los Angeles. And today we run out of time. Trouble's past, struggle's still to come. The day is nearly done. Will someone buy us some more time? Cloudy day in Los Angeles. Cloudy day in LA. I'm no sort of evangelist, but I got something to say. Something to say. Well, that was the fastest I've ever played that song. By a large margin, the fastest. Never even dreamed of playing it that fast. You gotta boot the local cuisine. How am I gonna get this in my body? How am I gonna get it inside? When in doubt, boof that thing, and you will be filled with pride. You gotta boof away. Don't worry, it isn't gay. You gotta boof away everything that you need inside of your body. That's how you need to administer things inside of your body via the ever reliable methodology called boofing. To boof is to live. Live to boof, boof to live. Okay? Keep that in mind and you'll go a long way in life. You just got to keep that in mind. The real question is, can you keep it in mind? Well, what do you want me to do, Trevor? You want me to watch you eat? I believe I've already watched you eat. I'm gonna boot that girl. I'm gonna boot that girl. I'm gonna boof that girl. You're gonna boof that girl? Yes, I had to stick her entire person up my butt. Are you sure she's gonna fit? Well, I am a founding member of Anal Refuge Anonymous. So trust me, I know what I'm doing. Oh, you silly kitty. You really take to heart the first pillar of defensible typology, that there is no reality except that which supervenes upon observation. Your food doesn't really count as being eaten or digested unless I watch you. Your preferred position is to be boofed. Can you fit more of me in there? My feet are still sticking out. What's that? I can't hear you. Can you please Morse code with your hand or something? Your fist, your fingers? I don't know. Your dick, maybe? Obviously, you can't use your feet because they're still sticking out. All the time, my feet are still sticking out. If you're not sure what to do, baby, don't be shy. You know it's okay to boof this here guy. You can boof me whenever you are in doubt. You wanna boof someone, give me a shout. I love being boofed. And that's the truth. The boofing of KP. You know, when one of us is boofed, in a way, all of us are boofed. Skimmer a dinky dinky dink. Ruben, you make an excellent point. Skimmer dinky dinky dink is exactly right. That's exactly. I mean, that's what wins the debate. Are you going outside, or are you just looking outside? You tell me, Trevor. What are you doing? Just making me hold open the door for no reason. There, out you go, you troublesome cat. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty. That cat's outside. I don't plan to go to Thailand. No. Why would I go to Thailand? I can get Thai food in America. If I were even thinking about going to Thailand, why wouldn't I go to just win land? You know? Obviously, I wouldn't go to lose land. Thailand is barely any better. I'd go to win land. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I think it's about time. It's about time for me to say goodbye, good night, good luck, and God bless. Because I've got important sitting arounds to do. I might go lie down for a bit, take a little Snapple poo. I think I might take a couple gabapentins, take a Snapple, get up, be ready to roll again in the morning, you know. In the meantime, rock and or roll, or both. That's implied with and or, obviously. And mwah!